morning, everybody. Hope everybody's having an amazing day today. It's interesting. Hopefully, my voice sounds okay because yesterday my VA was telling me that I sounded a little bit like I had a blocked nose, which is not the case. So I sounded a little bit funny. Hopefully, I sound okay today. But regardless of how I sound, we're going to do some reading because reading is so unbelievably beneficial. And I'm looking forward to your comments and ideas as we are going through. And thank you to Nick for the love hearts. So we're just going to say thank you for that one by saying follow. There we go. And also BBC Radio 4 today. Wow, that is amazing seeing you as well. So we're going to do Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I only have the Chinese version still. Lockdown is almost over. I'll be able to actually go and get a copy of the book again. But in the meantime, we are reading an absolutely amazing book called The Art of Thinking Clearly. And the back says, The Secrets of Perfect Decision Making. I don't know about perfect decision making because if that was the case, we'd all be millionaires on our stock picks. But that's okay. So we're up to chapter 41. We'll get straight into it today. The deception of specific cases, the conjunction fallacy. I'm looking forward to reading for you. I'm looking forward to your comments and ideas. Let's get into it. Chris is 35. He studied social philosophy and has an interest in developing countries since he was a teenager. After graduation, he worked for 2 years with the Red Cross in West Africa and then for 3 years in its Geneva headquarters, where he rose to head of the African Aid Department. He then completed an MBA, writing his thesis on corporate social responsibility. What is more likely? A, Chris works for a major bank, or B, Chris works for a major bank where he runs its Third World Foundation. A or B? Give you 5 seconds to have a think about that one. And time's up. Most people will opt for B. Unfortunately, it's the wrong answer. Option B does not only say that Chris works for a major bank, but also that an additional condition has been met. Employees who work specifically within a bank's Third World Foundation comprise a tiny subset of bankers. Therefore, option A is much more likely. The conjunction fallacy is at play when such a subset seems larger than the entire set, which by definition cannot be the case. Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, who wrote an amazing book, have studied this extensively. Thinking Fast and Slow. Great book. Very long book. Woo, took 10 hours on Audible. We are easy prey for the conjunction fallacy because we have an innate attraction to harmonious or plausible stories. The more convincingly, impressively, or vividly Chris, the aid worker, is portrayed, the greater the risk of false reasoning. If I had put in a different way, you would have recognized the extra details as overly specific. For example, Chris is 35. What is more likely? Chris works for a bank, or Chris works for a bank in New York where his office is on the 24th floor overlooking Central Park. In this case, it is really clear which one is less likely. Here's another example. What is more likely? Seattle Airport is closed, flights are canceled. Or B, Seattle Airport is closed due to bad weather, flights are canceled. A or B? This time you have it. A is more likely since B implies that an additional condition has been met, namely bad weather. It could be that a bomb threat, accident, or strike closed the airport. However, when faced with a plausible story, we don't stop to consider such things. Also, we make up our own ideas in our head. So when we think of the airport closure, it's going to depend on what we already have in our mind. If we think it's going to be bad weather and somebody says bad weather, then we think that that's going to be correct and it's going to be the more accurate. If we were thinking bomb threat and somebody says it was closed due to bad weather, we still have an idea, but it's a little bit less likely we're going to pick that one. But if we are thinking the same thing, then absolutely we're going to be thinking that that's the reason, because we're just confirming what we already believe. Even experts are not immune to the conjunction fallacy. In 1982, at an international conference for future research, experts, all of them academics, were divided into two groups. To Group A, Daniel Kahneman presented the following forecast for 1983. Oil consumption will decrease by 30%. Group B heard that a dramatic rise in oil prices will lead to a 30% reduction in oil consumption. Both groups had to indicate how likely they considered the scenarios. The result was clear. Group B felt much more strongly about its forecast than did Group A. Kahneman believes that two types of thinking exist. The first kind is intuitive, automatic, and direct. The second is conscious, rational, slow, laborious, and logical. Unfortunately, intuitive thinking draws conclusions long before the conscious mind does. For example, I experienced this after the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center. I wanted to take out travel insurance and came across a firm that offered special terrorism cover. Although other policies protected against all possible incidents, including terrorism, I automatically fell for the offer. The high point of the whole farce was that I was willing to pay even more for this enticing yet redundant add-on. How interesting, yes? In conclusion, forget about left brains and right brains. The difference between intuitive and conscious thinking is much more significant. And this is because we as humans need to take shortcuts. So we have these things inbuilt into our brains to give us a very quick answer. And it's what protected us from being eaten by a lion or being chased by whatever else we were being chased by thousands of years ago. But these things still work, and our brains still work this way with modern day threats, even though we really do need to think about it a little bit more. With important decisions, remember that as the intuitive level, we have a soft spot for plausible stories. Therefore, be on the lookout for convenient details and happy endings. Remember, if an additional condition has to be met, no matter how plausible it sounds, it will become less, not more likely. And on that note, there's actually a book that I would recommend, and I think it's one that I've already said that we might read at some point. It's called Innumeracy, and it talks about how we as humans are very bad at numbers and understanding numbers. Even if we were really good at mathematics, even if we are doctors or lawyers or whatever you consider to be a smart person, most of them are not good at understanding numbers. So it's important to take some time to learn about statistics and probability and numbers. And it's something that we only touched on very briefly at school, but that can be extremely valuable when it comes to making decisions and getting better results in our lives. So I would highly recommend that. We may even read some of those chapters because it is a brilliant book. I'm going to quickly say thank you to a couple of more people who have been following and doing different things to say hello on Bigo Live. So that is wonderful. It's great having you all here. So that was a chapter. Let's have a look. That was chapter 41. Tomorrow we're going to be reading chapter 42. I am looking forward to reading that one for you. And this one is called It's Not What You Say, But How You Say It. Framing. And that's interesting because I remember my French teacher used to teach me this, and there is a saying in French where it is not the tone of the music. Well, what is it? C'est le ton qui fait la musique. It is the tone of the music. It's the tone of the sound that makes the music. That's the one. So it is important how we say something. So that's going to be a really good chapter. I am looking forward to seeing you for that one tomorrow. Same time, same place. Actually, Australia's gone into daylight saving time. So I'm hoping that anybody from overseas has recognized that there's an hour difference between when we're starting. Europe will eventually catch up to us. But for now, this is the time slot since this is Australian time. And thank you to Sunsets for the beautiful flowers as well that you've sent. And have an amazing day today. I'm looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow for chapter 42. And I'll see you then.